So at that time of year, 2023 New Zealand election is coming up. It's only about 30 days from now, which is it's coming up fast. Our election schedule is a lot quicker than say America is, whereas they're running for like 2+ years. When I talk about modern day New Zealand politics, I really think we need to go back to 2016. All right, stay with me, okay? But I think it's important to talk about where New Zealand is and where our current political landscape has come from. So back in 2016, we had popular right-wing government run by National, the United Future, the Māori Party, and who else was in there? The ACT Party. They're in charge, and they're running place with popular Prime Minister John Key. Now, John Key was very popular, winning very large margins year after year. He'd been in power for 9 years, and he quit. He said, "I'm done. Wipe my hands. I'm not Prime Minister anymore." Gave his job to Bill English. Bill English, less likable. But, he got a lot of praise that John Key had for the last, getting New Zealand out of the 2008 recession, getting New Zealand out of your Christchurch earthquake, your damages. The National Party was in charge around that time, and various things. But I think a lot of criticism was put onto that government. They did an unpopular flag referendum. They sold a lot of assets that people didn't want them to do, yet they did it anyway. So selling a lot of New Zealand assets. But yet Labour just couldn't find a foothold. They couldn't get support from New Zealanders. The polls were terrible for them. And so their leader, just before the 2017 election, fucking quit. Andrew Little quit. Jacinda Ardern, was pole vaulted into leader of the Labour Party just before the election. Election happened. Oh my god, it's basically neck and neck. And then Winston Peters, the nationalistic, centrist type MP, had to choose who to be Prime Minister. It was really tense, crazy. He picked Jacinda. He said, "Fuck you, National, you're out." Labour, the Greens, and New Zealand First, they're all in. And after a couple of years of their centre-left policies that aren't really going anywhere because, Winston Peters is stopping everything, the polls look like, in 2019, the polls look like, the 2020 election's going to be a fucking blowout. National's going to come in, they're going to clean up, whatever. Boom, COVID. COVID happened, and then Labour skyrocketed. Labour hit the craziest election win in New Zealand history. Well, in MMP history at least. And, got an outright majority. New Zealand First was out. Fuck New Zealand First. They've gone. We're never going to see Winston Peters again. The leader of the National Party, Judith Collins at the time, she got kicked out as well. There's a whole scandal in there as well. And this guy, Christopher Luxon, comes in. He used to be the CEO of Air New Zealand and kind of mates with John Key, so, previous Prime Minister. And, there's even quotes of him, before Luxon is the leader of the National Party, of John Key saying he would be a great leader, kind of putting his thumb on the scale saying, make Luxon the leader. And then they did. Luxon's the leader. But, Jacinda, she outright majority. Labour can't be toppled, even with some pretty average polls. And, a lot of people saying Labour's not really getting much done. Well, it's either that or they're getting too much done. It was one or the other, And so they start creeping up National. Their polls start creeping up. And then suddenly, boom, Jacinda Ardern resigns. Not for any scandal or anything. She just didn't want to be Prime Minister anymore. And fair enough to her, fuck that job, It was busy. And so Christopher Hipkins comes in. And what does Christopher Hipkins do? He's been paramount to the entire government. He's been, the police minister. He's been the Minister of Education, running all of COVID and during health. He's done everything. He's done every job. Even look at my 2020 video. And I talk about how Christopher is the most important MP Labour has. Because he does all the work, He's the most effective minister. And boom, he's the leader now. Jacinda basically shoulder tapped him to be the leader. He's the leader. Jacinda's out. What could go wrong? Well, he comes in, and he has a fucking fire sale, gets rid of all the Labour's policies, goes down to their basics, or whatever, and undoes a bunch of stuff about the Three Waters policy, and really, not a lot to be excited about with him, even from a centre-left perspective. He's definitely worse than Jacinda, right? People really gravitated to Jacinda, and I don't think the type of people gravitated to Hipkins. And so that's where we are now. Nationals jumped over Labour. They look like they're going to get in easy. Okay, but let's look at the parties. Let's see what they're running on, and let's talk about what they've been going through. So Labour, I just said, they're not doing so well. They came in superheroes. Jacinda Ardern, super magnificent. Everyone loves her. She got through COVID. She had the mosque shooting. Yeah, a very likable person. There was a lot of haters on her, but I think generally she's a very likable person, and she was kind of a lightning rod for a lot of their popularity. And once she's gone, you know, there's not a lot of love for Labour. Now, there's been a lot of scandal with Labour. Just their ministers cannot get their shit together. The last couple of months with Kerry Allen resigning because of her mental health crisis, and there's been lots of other scandals with ministers. They just can't get their shit together. They can't work well together. None of their policies are really getting off the ground. It is fair enough to give them the benefit that they say, hey, COVID, did push back a lot of things. Winston Peters pushed back a lot of things in their first 3 years. But that's not really an excuse for, why, education is stalling, health is stalling. You can't really blame anyone when you're the top dog. When you're the government by yourself with no coalition partners, what are you going to do? You can't point the finger at anyone. It's your fault if shit's going bad. And, there's high inflation, high fuel costs. The economy is not looking great at the moment. And it's it's not looking great around the world, and that's a fair enough argument, but it's hard to say that and then stay in charge. So they're like, let's bring in some great policies, get people to vote for us, and it's like, get rid of GST off fruit and vegetables, so that's the 15% sales tax that we have. It's like, my cucumber's going to be, 20 cents cheaper? People are going to save $5 a week on this. It's also bad tax policy. I don't really want to get into that, but even from a centre-left standpoint, it's inefficient taxation, especially in New Zealand when we have a very efficient tax system compared to the rest of the world. It's very inefficient the way they're talking about it. They could be doing that type of benefits for people by just, giving out cash money would probably be more efficient than the way they're talking about doing it. Anyway, but is that very exciting? Jacinda Ardern in 2017, she was like, I'm going to make university the first year free. I want to come in and ban all plastic bags. I want to come in and it was just all these policies. They said they want to build a 1,000 homes a year with KiwiBuild. They want to build a massive light rail train. It's, it's very aspirational. It's very, it's a lot of substance there. Maybe they didn't get there. They didn't do that, but at least it's something to be excited about. And really, what is there to be excited about with Labour? There's not a lot. If you're a person who liked Helen Clark or Jacinda Ardern, you go, what does Hipkins bring to the table? What does his government bring to the table? He's talking about free dentistry sometime eventually down the track. It's very ambitious. It's going to take a long time to get there. Even that happens. Their policies just don't have a lot of gravitas to them, don't have a lot of staying power, don't have a lot of hype. They're not exciting. They're not sexy. You got to bring those sexy policies, and they're just not that sexy. And then, so let's look at the other side, National. This is their election to lose at this point. Luxon has the charisma of a thing without a lot of charisma. He is not very, he doesn't speak very well, other than the first debate, he actually did quite well. And talking about his policies, but what are those policies? Tax breaks, like a lot of other, right-wing governments, like the John Key government, they cut the income tax rate, they came in, they got rid of gifting taxes and all that stuff. They're being a bit charitable with their numbers, it seems. They're kind of talking out their ass when it talks about their numbers. Anyone earning minimum wage is going to be getting, $2 a week, back. But that people on minimum wage aren't going to vote for National, right? What they're really talking about is bringing back interest deductibilities for landlords. It's talking about decreasing the Bright Line test, which is basically our middle of the road capital gains tax that Labor has been increasing. The Bright Line test. So there's all going to be handouts to landlords, and if you're a landlord, you're smiling, you're great. If you're earning over $100K a year, you're smiling, you're great, right? There's not a lot of people. And I think people are underestimating how much money they're going to be getting. I earn about the median salary, and how much am I going to be getting? I don't have kids. I don't have, I don't own land. I'm going to be getting maybe $50 a fortnight back, which is, it's decent, It's more I'm getting back on my my salary, my GST. But how are they going to pay for that? They can't claim, on one hand, Labour's spending too much money, debt's through the roof, but also, cut all these taxes. So how are they going to pay for it? Well, they're have this weird policy of allowing foreigners to buy houses in New Zealand, but only if they buy over $2 million houses, but then they'll be taxing 15%, yet they won't release the budgeting on that, they won't release the modelling. it's sketchy. It's bullshit, right? I think they're going to be doing what a lot of right-wing governments do, and you might like it. That might be a policy you believe in, but you see like Donald Trump's tax plan over in the States when he came in, they increased the deficit by $1 trillion. They cut taxes and then didn't cut spending that much, and they increased the deficit. Now, what other spending could they be cutting? Well, they talk about, raiding the climate change fund. They're talking about cutting a lot of things, and I think we're going to see a lot of changes to cutting of benefits, to cutting of government services, and that's going to be through their coalition partners, and they're going to use that as a blame, I think. I really think that they're going to say, hey, it's not our fault. We want to just give this these tax cuts, but ooh, my goddamn coalition partners, they're making me do these cuts. Who are the coalition partners? The ACT Party, of course. The far-right, libertarian kind of party run by David Seymour. Now, David Seymour is, love it or hate him, he's a fucking superstar. He's taken his party from 1 MP to 10 MPs right now in 2020 to probably looking at more 15, 16, 17 MPs for the ACT Party, which is wild. Wild for a party. If you go watch my history of the ACT Party video, you'll see the trajectory, a lot of scandal, and barely any votes for them. Because they've been propped up by the National Party for years to keep that one seat in that electorate Epsom. And without that, they would have been dead in the water decades ago. But they've been supported by National, and now, the chicken's coming home to roost, right? They're going to be fucking sticking all their policies up National's ass. So if the government, if National wins this election, they're going to have to deal with ACT. They're not going to get 50%. Of course they're not. And what are their policies? Their policies are even more tax cuts, even more cuts to welfare, even more cuts to government spending. David Seymour wants to, fire 5,000 MBIE employees. His policies are wild. And maybe you like that. Maybe you want to cut down on regulation. Maybe you want to cut down on government oversight and government agencies, make them smaller, all that stuff. But I think a lot of people, they don't want that. A lot of people, they want low taxes, but they want these services that are being provided. And you can't provide the same services and then also cut the services. It doesn't make sense. I think a lot of people are going to be hurting from these policies. And ACT has it out against beneficiaries. They want to kick people off benefits and all that stuff, right? Maybe that's something you believe in, but But a big thing they're running on is crime. And so is National as well, right? So a big thing talk about how crime's out of control, ram raids every day, even though the numbers aren't really there. But crime is going up, for sure. And National wants to do boot camps for them. ACT wants to put ankle bracelets on children. These are wild policies, and that's what a lot of people want, I think. I think a lot of people are scared of crime. I think the media does hype it up a lot more than it actually is. But crime is certainly going up. And the problem with Labour is they don't have a good solution for crime. Because, from a left-wing perspective, and I'll talk about the Greens in a bit, but from a left-wing perspective, the argument is, if people's situations were better when they were kids, or their economic situations, their family and all that stuff, they would not commit crimes, right? You're less likely to commit a crime if your parents aren't in jail or in a gang or earning minimum wage. If you have prospects of joining society, getting gainful employment, have prospects of buying a house, you're less likely to be a criminal, right? Makes sense to me. But if you pass those policies, that's decades away before you're going to see results from that. And they don't really have an argument for current day crime. The argument is saying, hey, if we were just nicer to these people, 2 decades ago, they wouldn't be criminals now. It's I agree, but what is the solution now? And, I don't have the solutions, but Labour certainly fucking doesn't, right? Labour doesn't have a good track record on crime. They don't really have an answer for it. And it's tricky. Now, the Greens are also in the same boat, right? So the Greens, they're kind of like the mirror image of the ACT Party, but they're left wing, further left wing than the Labour Party, and they're half supporting the Labour Party at the moment. They got a couple of ministers. It wasn't a full coalition deal, but it allowed them to get some executive power, not a lot though, and have a bit of a seat at the table. And they're being pushing their policies, climate change policies, and I think they'll be very vocal on their policies of like pro-beneficiary, increased benefits, increased money for students, things like that, right? And that's a really big thing. But I think the big figurehead thing that they're talking about is a wealth tax. So a tax on the wealthiest of New Zealanders, or money over $2 million to be taxed every year, to pay towards, free dentistry, to pay towards, increasing benefits, and they have like a policy of wealth guarantees, which is kind of similar to a UBI, but kind of not. But and they're kind of crushing it. They've got so many superstar MPs. So many popular MPs. I think people like Chloe Swarbrick. Efessa Collins is joining their mix as well, who recently ran for mayor and lost in Auckland. The problem is Labour is just saying no to all their policies. Like Chris Hipkins said, he will not put in a wealth tax. So even if Labour came over the line with the Green Party and maybe the Māori Party as well, they said they won't bring in that wealth tax, which is, it's rough for the Green Party. I think the Green Party struggles to get people to take them seriously. Like massive amounts of young people just do not vote, and it shoots them in the foot. And how many people who own property are really going to vote for the Green Party? Probably not that many, Like, they seem to have a ceiling, and they're crushing it at the moment. Like, they're polling at like the highest they've ever polled ever, right? They're looking like incredible. They're probably going to get the most seats they're probably going to ever get. It's probably not going to be enough. This election is a swing against the left wing, so they're probably benefiting from Labour's shitty, support. So the fact that Labour doesn't have that high support, half those voters are going to go more left wing to the Greens. The other half are going to go to National, right? And so if Labour starts getting better, they're probably cannibalised from the Green Party. So it's tricky being to the left of to Labour, right? Like, how are you meant to get that niche? How are you meant to get that support? And they're trying, but them together with Labour, they're not really looking like they're going to get anywhere. Now, New Zealand First. We'd got rid of them. We'd got rid of them. New Zealand First was fucking out. Winston Peters was out of government. And then, out of government, out of parliament. He was gone, burgers. And what are your voters doing? You're bringing him back. He's polling around 4 or 5%. You need to get 5% to get in, unless you get an electorate, which you won't. So he needs to hit that 5% threshold. I think he will. I said in previous videos, I didn't think he was going to make it. He's going to make it. Oh my god, he's going to make it. Ugh. It's hard to talk about his policies because they don't make sense. They're incoherent. His policies only work to get the most amount of people to vote for him. He tries to find any niche that will vote for him. So he'll be like anti-foreigner, anti-Māori, anti-vaccine lockdown, even though he was the deputy prime minister at the time when we had the lockdowns. So it's very tricky. It's very tricky to find that niche, and I thought that was going to fuck him. The fact that he brought Jacinda Ardern in 2017, screwing over his right-wing base at the time, that's why he lost in the 2020 election. People didn't support him then. He's coming back, I think because Luxon isn't that inspiring as a right-wing candidate, and Labour's certainly not inspiring as shit. It's like, well, who else is there? There's David Seymour, and there's no one, right? So it's like, well, you've got Winston. Winston's back. He's gonna be back. Winston's gonna be back. The only other party worth talking about is the Māori Party. Māori Party, they only run in the Māori electorates. They run for the party vote, but not really, only a little bit. But they're doing well. I think they've got one seat. Oh, they got 2 seats, but 1 electorate. I think they're going to increase probably to 3-4 seats, maybe. It depends on the vote counts in the electorates. They're hard to poll in an electorate with Labour doing so bad, which is really the only competition for the Māori Party in the Māori electorates. It's looking like they could come in and sweep far more, even have overhang seats, which is a situation where you get more electorate seats than you get party seats. The Māori Party in the last two elections, they've been going a lot more left-wing than they used to be going, more unapologetically Māori stances. But potentially they could form a coalition with Labour and the Greens to slightly get across that threshold. But as National would call it, the coalition of chaos. That's his catchphrase that they've been working on. They say it all the time, talking about how like how the Greens and the Multi-Party and the Labour Party couldn't possibly work together, even though, like, the Greens and the Multi-Party have, very similar policies. If you do, like, the One News, Who Should I Vote For quiz, the Multi-Party and the Green Party are very close together. They have very similar policies, but the Multi-Party really just only talks about Multi issues. They try to push for, like, Multi alone issues, which, I agree and disagree with in certain parts. There are there's different arguments, but, you can't argue that Rawi Waiti, the co-leader of the Multi-Party, isn't, like, a superstar. Like, with no power. The Multi-Party have no power in Parliament at the time, at the moment. They've got 2 seats, which doesn't give them enough, like, power to actually have speaking rights in Parliament. They get very little time in Parliament. They haven't passed a single bill. But what do? They fuck around so much in Parliament. Rawi Waiti's being kicked out of Parliament, like, every couple of weeks. And what has that done? Got rid of the neckties. That was a big Rawi Waiti win. That's probably about it. But he's been a nuisance. He's out there. He's out there talking about Maori policies. He's out there talking about Multi policies. And, the chickens might come home to roost with that too. He might, be that kingmaker. The Multi-Party might have those 5 seats that Labour needs. So we'll see. We'll see about that. There's no other parties that are really worth talking about. The Opportunities Party, maybe. They're a party that's been trying to get in, kind of a centrist, centre-left kind of party. I don't know, they've been trying to get in the last few elections. They haven't really been getting anywhere. Best election they had was in 2017. They got like 3.5% or something. And they just can't get over that 5% threshold. They're kind of a waste of a vote if you vote for them. The best case scenario is their leader is running in an electorate. If he won that electorate, they would get in with the coattailing rules, similar to how the Multi-Party and the ACT Party has gotten in the past, and that could cement them for future elections. So the most important thing, I really think, if you're centre-left, I think, and you live in that electorate, I think you should vote for the Opportunities Party with your electorate vote. Push them over that line, get them that seat. If they got a couple of seats this year, we could legitimately talk about them in the future. But for now, the party vote is a wasted vote. If you are centre-left and you want to vote for the Opportunities Party, don't. Do not vote for them with your party vote. It is a wasted vote. But, support them and support them in that electorate. Because if they can get over the line, we'd have that discussion in 2026, but not now. Don't throw your vote away. And there's other parties like the Freedom Party and Liz Gunn's party and stuff. Conspiracy nonsense. Those people probably wouldn't have voted anyway if they didn't have these crackpot parties to vote for. So, what are you going to do? So, what do I think is going to happen? It's a little bit away from the election, but it is National's election to lose. Labour is just absolutely crashed and burned. It's too late to get rid of Hipkins. It's too late to get, like, an actual, lefty leader in the party. Best case scenario, I think, for the left. Okay, so other than them accidentally winning, which I think probably not going to happen. At this rate, I think, best case scenario, National wins. They need the support from ACT and New Zealand First. That's the real coalition of chaos. Imagine David Seymour and Winston having to sit at the coalition table together. Oh my god, when people talk about how, the Trump years were so fun because Trump's so crazy when he was president of the United States, David Seymour and Winston Peters being ministers, oh my god, that could be a fucking reality show, man. Oh, that would be crazy. Just absolute crackpot policies and crackpot fucking decisions daily. I think it would be crazy. But, best case, that happens. The coalition falls apart. Labour surges in a snap election in 2024, 2025. That's probably the best case scenario, unless they somehow won. That's all the parties that are running. That's kind of the gist of the situation. There's 2 more debates. There's still elections. There's still election time to come. There's still time for Luxon to accidentally say a slur or something out on the campaign trail and change everything. There's still time for that, but as it sits now, National's probably got on the bag. But stay tuned. I'll probably make a few more videos. But no promises. I'm so bad at making videos.